Yesterday I was telling the story of how my wife and I got into the position that we're in. And I had left off at my wife and I being in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, with no way home, at least no seeable way home. And it's funny because I wasn't really worried, but I knew that we couldn't stay in Florida forever. Wife had, some of you may not know, most of you do know, that my wife had suffered a massive stroke while we were actually cruising. We had to be flown back from Costa Rica all the way to Fort Lauderdale, where they treated her for her stroke as well as for her infection. So left off of that, my sister-in-law came and made the nurses take more care of my wife. And I think that you have to sometimes take it upon your own hands. Now, I'm more passive because I feel that that's what they do, they're health professionals, but sometimes they don't do the extra little things that can keep things from happening. And in this case, they had left her laying on her back, and she developed a pretty nasty bed sore. And when they finally found it, they had to, of course, treat it. My sister-in-law came over. She was livid, of course, and as well as she should have been. And she made them make sure that they watched over her, make sure that she turned one way or the other to keep her from being on that spot. And that spot actually bothers her even to this day. The bed sore is healed, but it's still very sensitive in that area, so I have to take precautions. Anyway, we were about towards the end of our stay at the hospital. We had to be transferred to a rehabilitation facility that was also a hospital as well. But I didn't have a way to get to that rehabilitation center because funds had ran out. And thank God for him. Bishop David Richardson. He was so concerned that he actually fronted the money to pay for the trip because we had to, because it wasn't a free trip to transfer from the hospital to the rehab. It was actually quite gracious of him, and I definitely have a debt to repay to him. He doesn't say it, but I really thank him so much for what he did and for his constant words of encouragement, even as he's going through his trial, recovering from his stroke. But we finally get to we get to the rehab center, which is like a hospital, but it concentrates on rehabbing patients, and this is supposed to be one of the better ones in Florida. So I think this is real good. And so they did occupational therapy, they did physical therapy, that hurt her, and I think even right now she has bad dreams about that. Speech therapy, all to get her into not perfectly well, but at least enough shape that she could sit on a trip to go home. And I'm watching over, and again, the question was whether I could stay in the room because I couldn't afford to rent out a place or to go to a hotel and then for whatever time that it was there. But they gave me a cot once more, and I was very grateful to them for that. I kept tabs on what was going on at the church. It was actually quite wonderful to see that they had a place where they could go to. This was when they were at, my church was at Cubberley, and I was able to see some of the services. But again, you know, there's also the day that draws nigh that it's time to go. At that point, we had been away from home. So understand this, we'd never been away from home for more than 2 weeks at a time. Mostly it was less than that. And counting the time that we were in the hotel, this would probably be close to 3 months that we were away from the house. Fortunately, my son and my sister-in-law were at the home to take care of things, but I had to depend on God. I had to depend on Him explicitly for all the things He did. How He protected us, how He healed her infection, He healed her bed sore. But there was a problem with again, once more, with the peritoneal dialysis. It kept clotting or something. And so we had that hanging over our heads, but she was well enough to go home, and by that time she really wanted to go home. In fact, she cried when she told her we still have a week to go. And I had to tell her, it's going to be okay, we're going to make it, we're going to get home. My aunt called, and she told us that she was going to make sure we were taken care of. She would pay for our tickets. We just had to make sure that we were there. She'd send the tickets, of course, email. And so, so now the problem of getting home was now solved. And again, I thank God for what He was able to do, how He was able to keep us. And I believe there was someone else that, a saint who doesn't even live in California, sent some money. And I wasn't asking for money, but I thank God that whenever I do need something, He gives me avenues. And I'm not saying that essentially God rains money from the sky. He doesn't. But He makes sure that His people are taken care of. And as one way or another, He does. And I thank God so much for that. And I believe that my trust in Him was even more intense, and it's just about strong now as it's ever been, because I've actually been through something, been through a trial. And the trial, they said the trial of your faith worketh patience. That was when I was beginning to actually learn how to be patient, both with my wife and with myself. Because other people may do bad things, but if I do something that I feel is wrong, then I will beat myself up constantly to the point where I feel as though maybe I don't deserve to live. That's how bad it had gotten. But the Lord was teaching me that, number one, He's the only one that can take a life, God, or end one, because He's the one that essentially gives life and takes it away. But that it's not on me that I should be putting my trust on. It's not on what I can do, because I can't do a thing, but it's on the Lord God. He's the one that can do things. He's the one that can help in all circumstances. So We're on the plane trip, or we're getting there. Uber to the airport, and got all the bags, and we're at the airport. And it's funny because they had us sitting in a place for about a good 20, 30 minutes. So you had to sit here, you have to sit here. I said, okay, all right, we'll sit here. That's for those who are disabled. You have to sit here. I said, okay, we'll sit here. And someone comes in, oh my goodness, you only have a few minutes to get there. I said, well, I was here. I said, no, we gotta go, we gotta go now. So we ran through the airport. And by this time, my back is hurting a lot, but I'm running with a lot of bags. And we make it just in time. So I couldn't afford to miss this flight. I could not miss this flight. So on the plane, we get home, and first night or two we spent in our bedroom upstairs, but someone had to carry my wife up there. And then I think the next day, again, she could not use the peritoneal machine because of an infection. We didn't know it was an infection, but it was. So we had to carry her back down the stairs. And from that time, we thought, we can't do this. She can't go upstairs anymore. And I know that she didn't like that because she's used to her bed. I would be used to my bed. But we had to change a lot of things. And then this time, though, they kept her in the house. Well, it was been back and forth, maybe for a period of about a month, we'll go back and forth. This is now getting close to September. Yeah, September. Because we get back, we got back at the end of June, July, August. It was pretty much a continual back and forth from the hospital to back home, from the hospital back home, and then finally they kept her for an extended period of time. And of course, by that time, I'm like, okay, I'm not taking care of my wife. Because if I was taking care of my wife, she would not be doing this. And all the old problems began to happen. Me blaming myself for so many things. I could still blame, but be honest, I didn't really know what was going on. I was trying my best, but my best wasn't enough. It truly wasn't enough. Let's suffice that she spent about a month at Kaiser, but at least I was home, and they allowed me to stay. Again, once more, they allowed me to stay in the room while she was going through. I let them know that she doesn't like me not being there with her at night. She's comforted by the fact that I'm there, even if I don't say anything. And so they allowed me to stay. They don't do it anymore. They don't do that anymore. So learn how to come at regular visiting hours. But at this time, they let me do it. And they were treating, of course, the infection, making sure it was all out of her body, as well as symptoms of the stroke. So towards the end, this was like towards October. Now we're in October, and they're telling, okay, do you want her to have some rehabilitation? I said, yes, but I can't do it on my own. I said, okay, we'll transfer her to a skilled nursing facility. And so for about a week or two, they were trying to find a place. But because of the infections that she had to be quarantined. And so they were trying to find a place where she could be quarantined. And I thought of a place that was close by our house. We got to go there, and it would be not a problem. But they couldn't find anything close to our house. And finally they found someplace someplace in Baldwin Park. I said, Baldwin Park? She's going to be transferred to Baldwin Park? And they said, yeah, but I said, that's the only place that we could find. It was a small place. It was a small place, but it was actually a nice place. It was kept clean, considering all the patients that were there. And so one night they were ready to take her, so we got her transferred to this place. Now, after all this time, oh, I forgot, because she kept getting infections with peritoneal dialysis, they had to do an operation to switch her to hemodialysis, where you have to go to a clinic and sit in a chair and wait there for 3 to 4 hours for the blood to be cleansed. So that was my first introduction to, but be honest, she had done it before, but it was only as a stopgap until they got peritoneals started. So she had been going there before the stroke, actually. And so, because of her experience there, they said, okay, let's try peritoneal. And their nurses, people that were taking care of her, agreed. And that's why she was on peritoneal. Then, she kept getting infections. They said, well, we can't have her going back and forth because it's going to mess up her body. So they put her finally on hemodialysis for good. But they had to make sure that everything was set, so they had a shunt instead of her fistula, if you know what a fistula is, on her arm. At that point, she had a shunt that was in her chest, close to the heart. So they were very concerned about that and wanted to make sure she was clean. That was another reason why she was going to a nursing facility. And so I resolved within myself, if I'm going to step up and be what she needs me to be, then I have to be there for her. And thank God that I had retired about a month before we even did the cruise. No, not a month, but sometime before the cruise. So I had retired. I figured that the amount of money that I would be getting for subsequent years wouldn't matter that much. So figure at 60 I'll retire, and I did. I don't regret the decision because the Lord knew what was going to happen, and He prepared me for the situation. And I thank God that He put it in my mind to retire. Because if I was working right now, I would be in a horrible, horrible position. So God knows what I could take. But being transferred over to Baldwin Park meant that I had to get up in the morning, drive to Baldwin Park. I stay in Orange. I drive over the hill and into the San Gabriel Valley to Baldwin Park. But because I know that people, if the tendency is to not see a person for 3 or 4 days and, oh, okay, now I have time. I said, no, I'll make time. So every day I got up in the morning, and between 9 and 10, I got to the facility at Baldwin Park. No matter what happened, that's where I went. Then, because she needed dialysis on certain days, I would take her, because I, again, couldn't afford having transportation to take her there, so I took her myself. Take her there, take her back. A lot of times we would take little trips after dialysis. Then we'd take her back. She's eat dinner, settles down. About 8 o'clock, I leave. Hopefully by that time she's asleep. But I know she didn't want to be in the place because there are times she would cry. And I know why she was crying. She's not at her house, and I'm not there during the night. So I just resolved that I would always be there. Even if I can't stay overnight, I'll be there every day. I make the trip. It's what I do. It's not anything special. It's not because I'm a wonderful person, but it's because God knew that I needed to do this. And he gave me strength to do it and the wherewithal to do it. And I'm going to stop at this point that the narrative, I'll stop the narrative right now. Not because I'm too choked up, but because there's more to it. Now, just begin again tomorrow. But at least you know what's been taking place. And continue to pray for us and see the Lord has brought us through so much, just so that you know. And so that's why I hold on to him so tightly. And I thank God for what he's done. And God bless you. Take care of yourselves. Have a wonderful, blessed day.